All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Massive Breakdown Podcast, episode 48. We are coming to you live on a beautiful Monday night. Well, actually, not so beautiful in Florida where I live because it is hurricane season, which means it is constantly thunderstorming for 2 straight weeks. But at the same time, all that means is I don't have to go outside. More time to play Destiny. Last week, we brought you a discussion of the E3 breakdown. This week, we're looking forwards to Destiny 2's beta, to Destiny 2 when it releases, to Guardian Con in the future, and to basically acting like Santa Claus for you guys, especially the Patreon supporters, because we have a ton of gifts and goodies and gizmos to give away to you guys, and I'm excited to talk about it. But let's get the introductions out of the way. As always, I'm Mercules, your host, joined by Kit Kutcha. How are you doing tonight, man?
Merc, I'm doing fantastic. I'm getting so hyped right now. Looking forward to Destiny 2. I realized that the beta is 30 days away for consoles. We're in the home stretch here to getting a real taste out of Destiny 2. We've got Guardian Con coming up way faster than I realized. So I have a bunch of things to figure out for getting myself there. And like you said, man, we've got a ton of stuff we're going to be handing out. I'm really excited to give some things back, to say thanks to people for all the support they've given us in Destiny 1. And we've got some special giveaways to really, I think, commemorate Destiny 1 in a great way.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go ahead and get a little bit out of the way. Some of you guys may have seen, if you follow us on Twitter, we have recently come up with some playing cards, some Destiny playing cards. We're going to be giving a pack of those away. They got the Massive Breakdown logo on. They look very good, designed by Kit Kutcha himself. We're going to be giving away some of those. We've got some of the Destiny legal news printouts, the magazines basically, that one of our lawyer guardian friends made up for us. We're going to be giving away a couple of those. And we're actually in the process of making hard copies of the weapon stat spreadsheet. Now that we know that it is finalized, there are going to be no more changes to the meta. This is it for the rest of Destiny 1. I know some of you guys hate having to keep it open on your computer all the time, so we're going to make some little hard copies, some printouts. They're going to be very nice, very glossy, sexy. We're going to give away some of those.
Absolutely.
And the Patreon guys know that they've got a beanie and a Destiny 2 bag coming towards them. And what else do we got, Kit?
I think we've also got some t-shirts, though. We might be looking at some t-shirt giveaways in the near future. I don't know if we've nailed out the details on that, but yeah, there are going to be some patrons for sure walking away with t-shirts. We've already got t-shirts. We'll be showing them off at Guardian Con. And I think we'll probably throw a couple of t-shirts out there into the wild, let them run free, and to the victor go the spoils. There, we'll have some great contests for those.
Beautiful art provided by Alyssa Rose, who is the house illustrator for Destiny Tracker. She's absolutely fantastic. Did a beautiful hunter.
Super talented.
Yep. And then nice vector logo designs by Kit Kutcha. Again, the more artistically talented of the two of us.
Just barely, man. Just barely. Let's not talk to Slick about artistic talents. He's got some criticisms.
That's true. He might beg to disagree a little bit. But on top of that, we've also got our Discord is now fully up and running. I believe anybody who wants to can now hop in. Is that right? We're publishing.
That's right. You'll find a permanent invite to the Discord at Destiny MVP on Twitter. Just check our profile there on the little left-hand side where it describes who we are and what we do. You're going to find a link there, not only to the Patreon but also to our Discord, which is free to join for anyone who would like to come and hang out with us. We've got some awesome people already in there, and I really hope you guys come and join us. Going to be looking forward to some Destiny 2 LFG with you guys in the very near future, so can't wait.
Awesome. And some of those giveaways, one of the Destiny Legal News giveaways will be for Discord only. Some of the stuff is for patrons only. Some of the stuff is for anybody on Twitter. But one of the things we're doing is we're going to do all of the drawings, all of the giveaways over the Guardian Con weekend.
That's right.
I believe that's going to be a great time, a unification of Guardians. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure that's the week of our 50th episode, isn't it?
It is, yes. We're hitting the big 5-0, officially over the hill as a podcast. So that is, man, there's so much. I'm almost losing track of all the things I'm excited about right now.
Yep, blows my mind. We've been doing this for almost a year. I cannot believe it. 2 more months and we'll have hit 1 year. It seems like time has flown by, but at the same time, I can't even imagine that much time has passed. So,
yeah, it's all just kind of sneaking up, and it's been such a great time. And now we've got Destiny 2. to talk about on the horizon as well. Not just big things for us, but big things for the community as a whole. And there's going to be so much to do. It's both overwhelming and really fucking exciting, frankly.
Yeah. So, I mean, last week we may have gone a little bit overboard with the salt. It flowed pretty freely. We had some feedbacks from some listeners that we value very, very dearly that said that we were probably a little bit too negative, and we accept that. We understand that. That was the way we were feeling, but we decided we're going to try to go the opposite direction. We don't always want to be cheerful and roses and farting rainbows and everything like that. But we feel like this week calls for it because the more we talk about it this week, I've been in a couple of group chats with some good Destiny friends who I know. I've been talking to random people on the street, not literally random people, but people at work, people at the bars, stuff like that. I've been talking about Destiny 2 just with people I'm playing the game with right now. And the more I talk about it and the more we creep closer to the Destiny 2 beta, the more excited I get to actually play about. So this week, we're going to be talking about what we're excited to do in the beta when we get there. We're going to be talking about what we're excited to do in the real game. And Kit Catcher, why don't you lead us off with something that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that I really want to dig in and test in Destiny 2. Something I've been doing recently in Destiny 1 is kind of working out some sort of testing protocols, putting together some spreadsheets to test things like agility, recovery, and toughness, because I think we really need to get a handle on those early on in Destiny 2. That's going to determine so many decisions for us down the road. Now that those are affected directly by our armor selection, I mean, that's going to be really important for deciding what's good armor, what's bad armor, how much do these stats matter, which ones matter the most, and those are going to be questions that I really want to answer early on. So I'm going to be definitely focusing on that. But we've got challenges with that kind of testing, right? Because there are no private matches at launch, at least. Hopefully maybe DLC 1. I mean, I can hold out that hope. But
yeah, we can believe for Christmas.
Yeah, it's got that Osiris logo, if I recall. So that's a good sign, right?
PvP oriented.
That's right. PvP tests are still possible. We just have to kind of be in media res, right, in the action. We can also, though, do some testing against PvE enemies, see the effects of recovery and toughness fairly easily there. And agility, of course, we just have to find some kind of roughly ground level beacons or ammo sources to test the effects of agility. So really looking forward to digging into that. How about you, though, man? What's the first thing on your list?
Well, the first thing on my list is actually not to test, and I know it's going to put me pretty far behind what a bunch of other people are doing, but when the game comes out, now the beta is going to be different because the beta, we've pretty much already seen all of the content. Like, as soon as the beta comes out, I'm going to be testing as much as I can. I'm going to be trying to nail down as many archetypes, rates of fire, their impacts, their damage, looking at damage fall off. I mean, TTK is the first thing I'm going to get down.
Yep.
I'm going to collect all the stats of every weapon that's available to me, and I'm going to start nailing down TTKs for the archetypes. That's the first thing I'm going to be doing, but that's in the beta. When the actual game drops, I'm MIA for 3 straight days, more than likely. I'm going to be gone. I was originally only planning to take Friday off of work, but now, because it's coming out Wednesday, I can't wait until Friday. The game's coming out Wednesday. I'm taking Wednesday through Friday off work. I'm going balls to the wall for the whole ordeal. It's going to be an awesome time, and I'm going to be MIA. I'm going to play the story. I'm going to patrol. I'm going to explore the world. I'm going to customize the tits off my Guardian. It is going to be amazing. I cannot wait. I am so excited. And, I was talking about this the other day on Reddit with a couple of the people in the new queue, and it's funny because they've done such a good job of tempering expectations this time. My hype levels were a little bit lower. I was a little bit more mellow, but now I'm also realizing that everything I could have possibly been disappointed in when Destiny 2 came out, I've already been told about it at this point in time.
Yep.
Meanwhile, all the stuff I'm super excited about, I know that it's in the game, but I have no knowledge of what it is. I don't know what new weapons are out there. I don't know what the exotics do. I don't know what the customization is going to be like in terms of armor and stuff like that, like what the looks are going to be like. I don't know what patrol is going to be like. I don't know what any of the new worlds are going to be like. Like all this stuff, I don't know what the new story is going to be like besides the first mission. All the stuff I'm super excited about, I'm going to get to experience and not have any of it spoiled. The Destiny 1 beta came out, and we had like 25% of the content in the game already right there. So by the time the game actually came out, I felt like I'd already played through a significant portion of it. It's kind of disheartening, you know?
Yeah.
They hyped us up, but then when the game came out, we were like, oh, I've already seen all this stuff. With Destiny 2, it's like the opposite. I feel like they've been like, well, hold on, don't get your hopes up about this, don't get your hopes up about this. But the things that I'm like really, really excited about, they're like, you're going to have to wait and figure that out for yourself. And I'm so excited. So that's why first 3 days, probably won't hear a single word from me.
Yeah, I guess I should say too, like, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do when the beta drops, I'm going to take advantage of my Blood Money bonus day from Sony, and I'm gonna sit down that night and just beat all of the story content that they make available in the beta, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the week, trying to figure out how some of these things work. That's my goal in the beta. I have to say though, on launch weekend. Yeah, it's going to be all story, digging into that. That's what I'm really psyched about is finding out what happens. What's the story of my Guardian in Destiny 2? Whose ass am I kicking? Why am I kicking it? What friends am I making along the way? And then also, I'm just really, really excited to kind of get out there in the wild and explore the worlds that Bungie has crafted for us. There's going to be a lot of time to do that down the road, but I also want to spend some time getting a feel for how things work, what these adventures are like, how the weekly rituals break down, how the economies break down in terms of, glimmer, marks. Do these things exist? If they exist, what are they like? How do you get them? Strange coins, all these things, we don't really know anything about where we're getting stuff or how we're buying it, except that there is going to be a much larger focus on building reputation with vendors. We know that. We can't just go buy shit at vendors anymore. That's no longer a thing, right? We have to actually rank up. And so how are we going to rank up? Are they going to be more present in the game? Are we going to be doing Dead Orbit quests or missions to rank up with Dead Orbit? Or are we just going to be doing patrols the same that we did in Destiny 1? These are things I want to know. I was feeling a little disappointed that we didn't get any insight last week, but at this point, I'm kind of thinking about it more, and I'm like, we're in the home stretch. I can survive, probably.
Maybe. It's a long way to wait.
It's, there's going to have to be a lot of drinking for me to just get through. That's what it is.
The thing they do in South Park where they freeze themselves and then they try to thaw themselves out like right before it comes out. But he freezes himself and survives like 3,000 years past it. And that's when we get Destiny 5.
So I'm going to be just emptying out my deep freeze and climbing inside for the next month until the beta comes out.
It's going to be a great time. And the beta, there's some debate up for the way that people think they're going to do it. Some people think it's going to be like the Destiny 1 beta where you start out as a low-level character, you play through it. I don't think it is. Based on what they've said, they said it's going to be very similar to the Destiny 2 reveal. It's going to be very similar to what was seen at E3. I think they're going to give us fully leveled characters, or at least fully leveled, maybe with some stipulations. And they're going to give us a selection of weapons, and then they're going to only let us run free on one strike to one story mission and probably count down on maybe 1 or 2 maps. I think that's all we're going to get, probably. It's not a very long beta. It's, 5 days total or something like that? 6 days?
Yeah.
It's really, really short. So I'm wondering if that's not what they're going to do, and they're going to let the process of leveling up be something we have to experience for ourselves as well.
That's a really good question. I've seen some speculation about that both ways, and honestly, I could see them taking either path. On the one hand, I would be really excited to obviously get my hands on a fully leveled Guardian early on. I feel like that might be the better marketing choice for them in terms of giving us kind of that power fantasy in the beta, so that when the game launches, that's what we know what we're aiming for, we know what we're working toward. And so I think that might, to me, make a little more sense as a marketing choice, and I think the beta is definitely a marketing tool for Bungie and for Destiny. But on the other hand, if they're wanting to test systems, if they're wanting to test, the economies of the game. How is leveling up working? How is obtaining items? How are loot drops working at these lower levels? Then it does make sense for them to start us off at those lower levels. So it's really kind of a question of where their priorities are, and what they think is going to be the most important thing for them to take away from the beta. I think they have to think about what they're going to get out of it as developers, just as much as what they're giving us as players.
Well, Deej has already said that they are using it like a stress test, though, for their actual servers and everything like that. The dedicated servers that they have, I shouldn't have said that word, but the servers that they have that they're using are handling more of a load in this iteration than they were in previous Destiny 1 iterations. So, and also they're probably expecting a larger population at the same time. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be able to have quite the hype following that Destiny 1 had, being that it was an unknown. But I think people have also seen how much it's improved, especially with Taken King and Rise of Iron. And at the same time, all those systems you talked about, I hope that they learned their lessons with Destiny 1. They were stingy in the very beginning. And I don't want them to make that mistake again. At the same time, there's something to be said for a stingier loot system as long as the loot is also smart. You know, I don't mind having to work for a reward as long as the reward I get is rewarding.
Right.
And doesn't feel like a giant middle finger. If I grind out a raid when I'm under-leveled and I get arm pieces the first time, that's awesome. If I grind out a raid still under-leveled and get arm pieces again, no longer awesome.
Yeah.
You know, the smart loot system they introduced at the end was fantastic. If anything, it was probably too generous. I'm being real. It was probably too generous in some parts. You know, I hope they find a way to tweak it. They don't quite go back to Destiny 1, but at the same time, I don't like it just raining purples down all over the place. It really takes away some of that special feel. Like in early vanilla Destiny, I had one legendary. One legendary weapon for a month after the game released. Like, it was the only legendary I had. And I used it because it was a legendary. Even though it wasn't good, it wasn't better than like the blue Sidonia AR3 or whatever it was, or the Shingen E, or whatever those ridiculous ARs that were incredibly overpowered in the Crucible. But at the same time, there was a sense of wonder that came with getting a legendary to drop, where you knew it was rare, and it was special to have one of those.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I do feel that they kind of went a little too far back the other way in terms of just dropping purples and even dropping exotics almost a little too generously.
3 of coins was the fault for that, for sure.
Yeah, 3 of coins, and especially because it was exploitable for a while. I think I probably walked away with like 25, 30 exotics that I didn't have prior to that. They've really got to watch themselves this time around in terms of what they give us access to, what they make available. And honestly, I hope that they do away with systems like 3 of coins, the same way that they did away with the tempering buff in Iron Banner. It's really frustrating to think that you have some buff active and then find out that you don't after going and working hard to beat some content. So I would kind of like to see those just sort of become like either the normal drop rate or an automatic buff, or maybe the normal drop rate end up being a little more generous than it has been, and us not have to have some extra item that changes the way that the game works to make it work in a way that we like, that we actually enjoy.
Yeah, it does seem kind of pointless to have that, where all you have to do is just select something to give you a buff. It's like, well, why not just do it automatically then? Why even make me go through the hassle of selecting it?
Yeah.
But geez, there's so much to look forward to in this upcoming game and stuff that we get to explore finally.
Yes.
Part of the greatest things in Destiny 1 for me was the exploration of not just the systems, but also the land, the layout, the patrol maps. I mean, some of the first times I went around the patrol maps, I've never been in awe of a video game like I was seeing Destiny's skyboxes and seeing these beautiful worlds they've created. And in Destiny 2, it looks like they're going to be bigger and more immersive than that even. So I can't wait. I can't wait for it at all. And like you said, there's going to be things that need to be tested. There's going to be dozens, hundreds of things that need to be tested even. But I'm going to spend a significant portion of those first few hours just wandering. I'm going to turn off all the lights. right? I'm going to close all my blinds. I'm going to tell everyone I've gone out of town somewhere so nobody tries to contact me. I'm going to make sure to warn them. I'm going to make sure to tell them that I'm, going AWOL so nobody freaks out and blows up Twitter.
Right.
Right? But I'm going to be spoiler free. I'm not going to be on the internet. All right? I'm going to play through the entire story mission. It's all going to be surprises. I'm going to have enough food and drink to keep me stocked for at least 72 hours. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched. I've made arrangements with the fam to have some space that week and that weekend to really dig into the game. It's not something that I do very often. Usually, my priority is always spend time with family first. Video games when I can, when I don't need to sleep. But every now and then I like to say, okay, I'm going to take my hobby and this week and this one time, it's going to be all about me just for a couple of days, and then it's back to the grind, back to doing what's important in life. And so it's going to be my little escape to really just dig into the game. I'm going to have liquid meals all prepped. I'm not going to have to get up except to go to the fridge once every 6-7 hours. Going to have my energy drinks prepped. Man, I'm really looking forward to it.
The liquid calories, the liquid lunch, like you say.
Yeah, you gotta get those vitamins and minerals that you need.
And all the carbs.
Gamer health matters. It does.
Yeah, exactly. But oh man, once that is done though, we are going to have to get back to work. We're going to have to live back up to the Massive Breakdown name. We're going to have a lot of things to test. A lot. I already said the first thing I'm going to do is Time to Kill.
Yep.
Because Time to Kill, hopefully I can get as much of that done during the beta as I can. But Time to Kill is one of the deciding factors for what dictates the meta. And you're right, it's going to be a little bit more difficult without custom matches and without Rumble too. They took that one away from us.
Yeah.
Which I used, pretty well. But the truth is, when I started doing the spreadsheet, we didn't have custom matches.
Yep.
I mean, I went through this before. I'll do it again. It's maybe a little bit more difficult now that matches are less chaotic because they're 4v4. But, I mean, if you record enough gameplay, you see how much damage weapons do, and I don't need to test rate of fires or anything like that in the Crucible, so I'll get them there. And it'll be nice because we'll be starting out with, hopefully, less weapons than what we started out with in Taken King when I had to start doing it.
Oh, yeah.
That was the point where everything was able to be brought up to the highest level, so I, had to go through all of the weapons, basically, and look at them. So, hopefully there won't be too many weapons to do. And it's not going to take me months and months and months like it did the first iteration. I've already got the spreadsheet planned out. I've already got what we're going to be looking for. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see. That's another thing to be excited about.
I think one of the big things that, maybe in the second week of Destiny that I'm going to want to take some time to try and figure out is whether or not matchmaking can be forced in Destiny 2 PvP. It's going to be really difficult. I suspect it's not going to work very well because it's going to be 4v4, which just adds a couple more variables than 3v3. It's going to be a super high population for the Crucible compared to what we've had for, a lot of Year 2 and Year 3 when there have kind of been those doldrums in between releases where things get kind of quiet, and we won't have these legacy playlists that nobody's in that we can go and abuse. So I don't think it's going to work, but I got to try because that would be super helpful for going out and double-checking some of these numbers.
I have a feeling that they're going to put custom games in soon. I think that's going to be top tier on their list of things to do. It seems like they're a lot more prepared for the grind post-Destiny release than they were the first time around. Mm-hmm. They've already kind of outlined a roadmap. Like you said, the first expansion looks to be Osiris themed, which is Trials themed probably, which leads me to believe it will be PvP focused. I'm hoping for some type of a ranking system and custom games. Even if they don't give us too much more with PvE, like even, a Rise of Iron, Dark Below, where it's 3 to 5 story missions and a raid.
Yeah.
Would be tremendous. If they were to bring us custom games and actually, 3 to 5 story missions in a raid and custom games and a ranking system would be the greatest expansion I think Destiny's ever seen. if that were what they were to give us. We'll see. That might be getting my hopes up too high, but that would be a hell of a Christmas present right there.
I've seen this rumored a little bit on social media, but I think actually some news articles might have made a reference to it, but I think that Luke Smith and co. are working on a roadmap for Destiny 2 that will be released publicly at some point in the next couple of months. That seems to be something that they recognize is important. You know, it's something that they acknowledged, I think, early this year, identifying that, you know, when they'll be releasing things roughly, even if they don't give us exact dates, more or less what they're going to be doing or what they're going to be focusing on, even if they say, you know, some things might change. But giving us that kind of a roadmap, I think, is super important. I know that it was really nice for me when I got into Destiny 1 that I knew, okay, there's going to be an expansion here, there's going to be an expansion here. I know what I'm getting, I know when I'm getting it. And that was definitely a big selling point, because I was a little skeptical. I was going to have to buy a console in order to play the game. I'd been wanting to buy a console for a while, but you know, it was a big chunk of change at the time, and that really sold me on it. And I really hope that they give us the same thing for Destiny 2, just so we can know what we have to look forward to. I think that really takes a lot of the stress off in terms of, like, how are they going to be supporting the game going forward? What's next? If they just tell us, right?
Yeah, he did mention in an interview. I'm not sure which of the interviews it was in, but he did mention that he was working on a roadmap, and I got to give Luke credit. He has been out there telling it like it is in a bunch of different interviews, not holding back too many punches as far as it goes. You can tell that he really, really wants to get out in front of this thing and tell people what Destiny 2 is all about, and I respect that. I appreciate it a lot. It's probably, you know, had a little bit of blowback on him, but he seems like the type of dude who can handle it. I'm sure he's got that banhammer swinging freely on Twitter. But a roadmap would be just the absolute best thing. And speaking of consoles and being a chunk of change, the Xbox One S, or the Xbox One X, I guess is what it is. The Xbox One X is their newest version.
The acronym, I believe, is actually Xbox.
Yeah, X. Yes. God, Microsoft. That's a pricey console. I'm not sure. I was thinking I was going to treat myself to a nice little early birthday present and grab one of those, but what's the price of it? Is it $4.99 or is it $5.99?
$4.99 is the launch price that I saw.
Still pretty steep.
You can hope there's going to be a Christmas special, but I would count on them bundling a game and not discounting the price. That's what I would guess.
You know, maybe when it comes down to $3.99. I think if it was at $3.99 and I could get a game and a controller for $4.99, I could maybe justify spending my future child's college fund on an Xbox One X. But $4.99, that's a little pricey for 4K. You know, 4K would be nice, but I don't know if that's worth basically a huge chunk of change.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I know for me, PlayStation Pro just doesn't offer enough right now to really convince me that it's worth making the switch. You know, if I have to replace my PlayStation at some point, I'll probably go for a Pro. I mean, why not? Get the best that's available when you have to make that purchase, but it's just not something that seems like it's worth the upgrade. I see where you're coming from on the Xbox. It's a gorgeous machine, but that's a lot of money when you don't actually need one.
Yep. 4K would look nice though when I'm shooting at walls, judging stability patterns and things like that.
That's right. Be beautiful bullet holes.
All right. Well, regardless of what those consoles are and how much they cost, I believe that what happens with our testing is we test what we want to test first, what we care about, and then when we run out of things that we have our own ideas to test about, we usually go to the community, and the community requests things for us to test. And we've actually got some requests, some recommendations kind of lined up early. We took to Twitter and to Discord, and we asked what people are looking forward to massive breakdowns of when the Destiny 2 beta and Destiny 2 comes out. And I believe you have a list of those things, do you not?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of tweets from people. We also got some responses in our Discord here from people with some ideas for things that they'd like to see us take a look at or that are going to be important to try and figure out how they work in Destiny 2. So I guess I'll go to Twitter first here. So we had a couple of questions from Destiny Game Fan. Let's see what he had to say. So he's asking about, well, here. So depending on how soon you start, how about archetypes so far, and predictions, analysis on their uses and place in the game. So that's probably something I think that you're going to be working on primarily in the beta, and that we'll be looking at and talking about at that point.
Figuring archetype numbers is like key number one to figuring out times to kill and everything like that, is figuring out where the archetypes go.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm kind of hoping that they change the way things work, or that they do a better job balancing those archetypes this time around. But I guess we'll see what we get when we get it. One thing I'm really curious about is how the archetypes are going to balance across the kinetic and energy weapons, to kind of carry his question a little further. If we're going to end up with the exact same archetypes, how damage is going to work differently between those two. It's going to be an interesting experience trying to figure that stuff out, because there are going to be differences and there are going to be things that are the same.
Yeah, I'm interested to test the effect of energy weapons on supers in the Crucible. That was something that people talked about, and I'm interested to see how that works, because that wasn't something they publicized. It was just something I heard. Also, I believe Deej was clarified the other day that weapons are either kinetic or energy.
Right, he did.
They're not both. They're only one or the other. I believe we are going to have the same archetype split between the two of them. When I was noticing in the Destiny 2 reveal gameplays, there were same archetypes represented across both. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty nice. But I am interested to see those damage numbers with elemental weapons. That's something we've never had to deal with before in PvP.
Yeah.
So that could have some really interesting effects, and it could have had something to do with the reason why I didn't feel supers felt like they were unstoppable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge change to the way that the Crucible works, and possibly a very welcome one. It's going to give you clear decisions, clear options. This is your optimal choice for this situation. This is your optimal choice for that situation. It's going to be a real balancing act, trying to figure out, what do you run? What counters do you run? What are your opponents running? Do you swap weapons to counter what they're running? I think it's going to be a much more strategic and tactical game than it really has been, which is exciting. It's very exciting. Let's see what else he's got. So he also threw out there a discussion on which weapon perks, new, updated, or unchanged, if they exist, may be desirable or interesting to try out. And that's definitely one of the things that I think is on the top of my priority list, is going through and trying to figure out which perks work as advertised, which perks are a little unclear, and maybe getting a list together of those to start going through and figuring out exactly what they do. That's probably after figuring out how recovery, toughness, and agility work. That's probably the second thing on my list of things I'm interested in.
So if I had to guess, based on what I've seen so far, I would say that perks are not going to have as big of an effect as they did in Destiny 1, where there were some perks that were considered make or break. You had to have them. It was either, you have it or you shard the weapon, basically. Say, like the way range perks worked on hand cannons. The way stability perks work on 102 auto rifles. The way hidden hand is on a sniper rifle, kind of. I don't think we're going to see perks with that big of an effect. The perks we saw were things similar to lightweight. There was one interesting perk where if you reload before the magazine is empty, the reload speed is faster, but you lose whatever rounds were in the magazine. So I think the perks are going to be more just nice little bonuses and less game changing the way they were before. Like, it will make it more fun to play with the weapon, but it won't necessarily make the weapon infinitely more powerful. At least probably until exotics.
Well, if that's the angle that they take on it, I don't think that would entirely be a bad thing. With those kind of make or break rules, that really, it created some real challenges. Balance wise, it created some really kind of frustrating situations as a player, where if you can't get the god roll, then you're just kind of hosed. So I think that would be a good thing if they took that route. Side note, just as a tidbit of knowledge for everybody out there, I've been doing some testing on agility in Destiny 1 over the last month, and lightweight does not have an effect in PvP. It doesn't do anything that I can detect, but it does not increase jump height or sprint speed. So I'm pretty sure it's totally worthless in PvP. It does increase jump height in PvE, though. Exactly as advertised. It bumped up by 2 points of agility. So take that for what it's worth. But
I'm amazed they would even feel the need to distinguish between those two things. They're so far against separating PvP and PvE, but then perks they give us don't work in one or the other.
Yeah, it's. I thought it was weird. It really surprised me. Also surprising, Mida does make you jump higher as if you had +2 agility in both PvP and PvE. So Mida is exactly as awesome as advertised.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. Craig Walton asks, I'd like a breakdown of how armor works in D2. No one like discipline and strength. I heard agility, strength, and recovery are tied to armor now. ? Craig, we're on the same page. Definitely going to be working to figure out how that works.
So he's talking about armor, like armor pieces, like chests and helmets and things like that. That one will be pretty straightforward and simple. You'll look at what perks they have, and you know that'll determine it. Because all armor does is act as a platform for perks. That's all it really does. The rest of it's just, cosmetic. But now at the same time, instead of having intellect, discipline, we've got armor, recovery, and agility. But I feel like that'll be relatively straightforward as far as it goes. What I'm more interested in is armor, the type of armor you were talking about earlier. But good Lord, that is going to be so difficult to test without custom matches. I mean, I started trying to test it in Destiny 1 to get some real numbers. Yeah. And I was going to do this whole project where I was going to test every single archetype with every single barrel modifier for damage against every single layer of armor on every single type. And I got through just auto rifles against just the Titan. And I think it took me an hour and a half to do that, of just me shooting one person over and over again, getting every single combination. And it was brutally time consuming. And I was like, I don't actually know if I want to do this for every archetype on every character. That would take a long time, especially for things like pulse rifles where you have to hit a couple of them with the burst.
Yeah.
And imagine trying to do that without custom games.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, pretty much. One of the things I'm gonna probably do some experimenting with in PvE for toughness or armor, whatever you want to call it, that stat. Not armor like the armor pieces, because I think his question was speaking to how will agility, recovery, and toughness, the stats, work on armor pieces. How are those gonna interact? What are the bonuses we're going to be getting? What's going to be good? What's going to be bad, etc. So I might do some experimenting in PvE to see if I can kind of fine tune the amount of damage that I'm taking, and at different armor levels to try and get kind of a percentage effect, which isn't going to be the same as knowing how the numbers work in PvP. But unless we can reliably match in PvP or until we get custom games, I don't know if there's really a better way to try and figure it out than just sort of estimating those percentage benefits. So that's one angle I'm going to take on it to see if anything comes in. So next up on the list, we've got Drew at Drewski's channel. He's asking kind of the stuff we're really talking about here: kill time, shots to kill, cooldowns for abilities. That's going to be a big question. That's something we haven't talked about that we'll definitely have to time out. Damage potentials and damage fall off, damage buffs, armor stats, recovery, agility. Let's do it together, Shades. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work. I think we're definitely gonna need to probably be working with some people in the community to be testing some of this stuff, collecting video to try to get stuff done faster. I'm totally open to that. If somebody gets to something before me, that's one less thing I have to do. So
yeah, it's kind of funny when you look at it. Like, we look at how much info we have now about Destiny 1, and even just in the weapon stat spreadsheet, but in general. And we look at it, and it's going to be hard to go into Destiny 2 and not have any of that. Like,
playing with blinders.
We have 3 years worth of data that we've collected. We know exactly how much aim assist every sniper scope gives us, how much zoom every sniper scope has, what the barrel modifiers do, what the barrel perk effects are, what every perk does. Like, we have broken this game down to the point where we understand basically the finest systems inside of it. And we're going to come into Destiny 2 and basically just be like hoping that some of it's the same.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we aren't going to have 3 years worth of data to back us up. We're going to have 5 days worth of a beta, and then the mad rush of everybody scrambling to try to figure everything out in the first week.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of awesome to just not know things. As awesome as it is to know things and to learn things as we go, I think it's that learning and discovering that's going to be really fun and really exciting. Not only exploring the worlds, but exploring the systems and the mechanics within the game. Yeah, it's exciting. So rolling on through Twitter here, we've got Slick. Always has something smart to say. So we asked, what should we study first? He replies, TTK, easy, easiest telling you what to do with my life. Always.
Yeah, I got to agree with him on that one. That's like probably the most important one in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely put that at the top of the list. Rise Bacon has a great answer. From trying at range, everything felt so tight in CQC for PvP. I feel like the range stat has changed a fair bit on weapons. And that's a good one. That's definitely going to be something we have to figure out, is how the stats on these weapons work, how range works, how stability works. If they don't give us rate of fire numbers when they actually launch the game, as I think they did in the reveal.
They did, yeah. They showed them to us. I think they'll keep that in there.
I hope so. I mean, that's just... Yeah. If they can just tell us how they work, that's kind of better sometimes. So... we've got I Beat You asking subclass HP values across different armor specs, please. As we just discussed, that is going to be a challenge. That is going to be a huge challenge. So
yeah, that one might have to wait till Custom Games comes out. I can't imagine the struggle of trying to do that in normal PvP.
Yeah, the only way we could really do that is if we can force matching, which for reasons I discussed earlier is going to be probably impossible.
Or if you bump into a 4-man, which is what I had happen a couple of times, you bump into a 4-man and you message him and you say, hey, look, we're trying to test some stuff out. You mind hanging with us a couple of games?
Yeah.
And you hope that they don't care about their KDs or win-loss.
Get a fire team going, go 4v4, and yeah, maybe you get lucky. Maybe you meet some friends who want to do science. And I never cared about my KD, so I'm always down for that kind of thing. So.
I'm not super interested in that. That was brutal when I was trying to do it before. I think I'll just play my normal ways and collect data as I go.
Yeah. So maybe somebody will come up with a novel way of getting at that. We'll be watching if they do for sure. So E10XD asks weapon archetypes, if that's a thing, and time to kill. Obviously already talked about those. Definitely going to be looking for that. Mitchell Kushman asks subclass or how they switched up weapons. So a little vague there, but I'm thinking, how subclasses work, what the subclass abilities are, and what they do.
Yeah, well, when the beta comes out, we're going to have to look at Defender, because we know that it either gets Captain America's shield or Ward of Dawn.
Yep.
Or some weird combination of the two. So, I mean, Defender is going to need to be looked at. We're going to need to look at what I assume will be Voidwalker.
That's the guess, but I don't think I've actually seen it in writing, so...
Well, I mean, it's either that or Stormcaller, and maybe, maybe, but we see Ikora use her Nova Bomb.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We also see her blink. The only instance of blink in Destiny 2 came from a Voidwalker, so maybe it's still in the game. Maybe I can go blink shotgun.
Maybe. I said before that I didn't think blink on a Warlock was as bad as it was on a Blade Dancer. So maybe they take back, since the Hunter stole it from the Warlocks anyways, maybe they take it back.
Hunter mobility, I think, was always better. The Warlock floof is just not as easy to figure out.
Abysmal. I'm using a Sunsinger right now, and oh my god, it's horrible. I die so often because I just floof someplace. Like, I go to do this nice mobile bounce, and I just like float and die. Or I'll like slide an inch off the map, just like 1 inch off the map, and slowly float to your death. Because there's just no verticality to it. It's ridiculous.
Surfing as a warlock is definitely an acquired taste. It takes a lot of practice. I've spent a lot of time as a voidwalker learning to surf, and I feel like I'm pretty decent at it. But yeah, if you aim a jump poorly or step off a cliff, I mean, just fall.
You're done.
You're done. So that's all we had from Twitter, I think. Kind of covered the big stuff. We had a couple of questions, though, in the Discord as well. So I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm just going to say Misneach. We'll go with that. And boy, this is a little, I'm just going to read through this, and we'll try to figure out what he's asking as we go. Oh, awesome. I know I'm looking forward to the beta and trying different class combinations. I play with my girlfriend who's excited for Dawnblade. I'm just going to read it. While I'm keen on stripping to pay my way through Crucible College, I think I'm going to run Titan so we can take advantage of our specials. Shield plus Rift for all difficult encounters as we level through the story should make it fairly easy to just lay waste to our enemies. Also really want to go exploring, do the adventures in Lost Relics or whatever it's called. However, the girlfriend is literally just going to want to grind to the level cap and only collect lore for completion marker. I've already told her I'm going to force her to watch all the cutscenes. She's not impressed. She watched 1D1 cutscene because somebody else was fireteam leader and went AFK at the end of a fight. Okay, I thought there was a question in there. I don't know that there is, but there are some good points. Definitely going to be interesting to explore how the subclass abilities and the class abilities work in concert. And I think that's going to be a really interesting exploration, both for PvE and PvP. Just thinking about the hunter and the dodge roll. Obviously, the pole dancer, as will always and forever be known, is really built around that ability. But gunslinger, it kind of feels a little tacked on to me.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find out what the deal is with gunslinger. I'm not liking that 6-second 6-shot golden gun. I mean, it's 4v4. So at most, you're going to get 4 kills. I mean, it's just...
But if you got 6, I mean, if they respawn that fast, that would be...
I mean, but you're not. It's not... And even if it does, it's never going to be worth that considering all the other times you don't get a couple more kills with it. And it sucks because it basically means that you can't use that subclass combination unless you don't want to use your super in PvP, which... is annoying, but we'll get to that when the time comes out. We don't know what things are going to change. We don't know what exotics are going to give you stuff. You could get an exotic that tacks 4 seconds onto your super, and then Golden Gun is one of the greatest in the game right there. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows? Who knows indeed? The subclasses and the way they work with exotic armor in particular is completely and totally up in the air.
Yeah, it's going to be... there's just going to be a lot of time that's going to have to be spent scouring the databases for a lot of this information in advance of getting it. It's going to be really tough, frankly, to kind of avoid doing that for a little bit, but I do want to, like you said, I kind of want to hold off. I kind of want to go dark for a few days and just enjoy it, just have fun with it, and avoid those spoilers until...
Well, weapons and armor I'm going to be scouring the database for. I'm not going to do spoilers story-wise or missions-wise or mechanics-wise or anything like that, but I can guarantee you that weapons and armor, I will be scouring the API because I immediately want to know what the weapons are that I want to get. Like, I want to have that goal in mind if I need this gun. Like, I knew early on in Destiny that Icebreaker was something that I wanted. I was like, that sounds amazing. I absolutely want it. And now I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole because, damn you, Meta, I refuse to play you. All right? So I won't do it. You hear me? I won't use your Icebreaker. But back in year 1, I love that gun. And it's because I was Googling every single bit of information I could find about Destiny and the weapons in it as soon as I possibly could, basically.
I mean, I'll say I never met a meta I didn't like, but I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna try not to look at the database at least for a couple of days. I'm gonna try to give myself a couple of days to just be surprised and just see what weapons I discover, what armor I discover, what things kind of come to me. And then, then A, all my friends are going to spoil everything for me anyway, and B, it's going to be time to start digging in and making lists of things that I want to get, just like you said. I mean, I had lists in Destiny 1 for a long time of things I wanted. I used Trello to make workflows for myself for personal projects, and I also use them to make workflows for getting things done in Destiny because it's important to be organized. But there are going to be lists for sure, but just not for a couple of days. I gotta hold off. So let's jump on to the next one here. We've got Mamonix chiming in. Always got some good questions. He asks, he suggests, of course, first things to look at: how range works, zoom, and the range stat, and how it works differently than Destiny 1. Zoom, I think, is something we haven't really addressed, but I think that is something that can be tested fairly easily. It will be a question, can we just look at a patrol beacon real quick and
hopefully
figure it out, or do we need to actually take screenshots and compare pixels? Because that's a little more work.
Yeah, I'm gonna try the zoom magnifier thing using just the patrol beacons. If it doesn't work, probably gonna leave it up to everyone else, because that whole measuring pixels thing was not appealing to me at all. And I was very happy to find the patrol beacon way that I could do instead, because that made it way better.
Yeah, I can think of probably a couple of people on Reddit who are going to be doing that already, so I'm not sure I need to duplicate their work. So anyway, let's see what else we've got here. Also from Mamonix, interesting one to check if the current... let's see, what's he saying here? Generalization of stats follows the D2, generalization being that different weapon classes all share the same traits with no outliers. Example, range, rate of fire, and damage. So basically what the question being, will all mid-rate of fire hand cannons, for example, have the same roughly levels of recoil, or might some of them come with high recoil or low recoil, and kind of how those different stats are going to work within the archetypes.
I would expect them to be very similar to the way they are in Destiny, where they generally have the same, characteristics, but there are archetypes within the archetypes. Like in mid-impact hand cannons, there are high-range mid-impacts, there are low-range mid-impacts, and the low-range ones tend to have more stability. Think about like the Ufern is one of them. I guess the Devil kind of. I would need to actually be looking at my spreadsheet to be certain. But then there's also like the high range ones, which are the Eyes Luna, like the Imago Loop. What other ones are there? There's a couple of them. The Byronic Hero, I think, was one of them. Finala's Peril. And those tend to have high range and stability, but they have very low aim assist. So there's like archetypes within archetypes, and I would imagine that it's going to be the same thing in Destiny 2. That seems to be a system that works. So at this point, why break what's not broken, basically?
Yeah, I agree. I expect the stats in terms of functionality within a given archetype to be pretty straightforward, or at least pretty consistent, if not straightforward. But we'll find out. We'll certainly notice if one of these guns recoils way more than expected, and that'll be something we'll have to look into if that happens. I think this is our final question from the Peanut Gallery, coming from Tankacito, one of our patrons. I know this may not be your thing, but map breakdowns would be cool. I think it was Crucible Radio who started the trend of call-out maps with nice graphic layouts. Appreciate that kind of effort, and also because I'm kind of a maps geek. And that is a little bit, maybe a little bit outside our typical wheelhouse.
Well, it's funny that he says that, because one of the ideas for something I had that I very much wanted to do was I don't want to call it a map breakdown necessarily, but you need to understand the way first-person shooter maps are created in general.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand what lanes are. You need to understand what choke points are. You need to understand how to use the outside barriers of the map, what types of sight lines exist, where common areas of engagement are. You need to understand what heat maps are. That was something that I very, very much wanted to do when we were doing that whole how to get good at PvE series that we did, and I
PvP,
kind of
yep.
put a pin in it. Yeah, PvP, sorry. I kind of put a pin in it because it was just an extremely in-depth breakdown, and honestly, it was taking me a really long time to write the script for it. And I just was like, well, I'll put a pin in this one, and I'll come back to it at some point later. The individual maps type thing, there are a lot more people out there who are more artistically talented than I, who are better at drawing those overhead type maps.
Yeah.
And Bungie actually said they're going to try to be releasing more of them for us, like their own blueprints of the maps, so that we can use them. They said that at the D2 reveal when we were talking to one of the map designers.
That's awesome.
So
that's really awesome to know.
Maybe if Bungie releases the blueprints, we can do a breakdown. But the thing is, it's so much easier to do that visually than it is over audio, over a podcast, that I don't know if we're going to delve into that until we get the YouTube channel up and running, is what I'll say.
Yeah, that might be something that maybe the actual kind of demonstration of, especially for individual maps, does make a lot more sense on YouTube. I think we could certainly take some time at some point to delve into kind of some of the theory and some of the strategy that goes into your thinking in terms of how the maps work. What lanes are, what defines a lane, and how to use choke points. That might be something that we could talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good show.
As far as kind of working on call-out maps or that kind of thing, I guess I'd say this, Tankacito, if you make maps for us, then I think we'll probably have to break them down. I think that would be fair. So.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Any other questions at all? Comments, concerns? Anything else people brought up to us?
That pretty much wraps up those comments from the Peanut Gallery. Some other feedback that I've gotten just talking to people over the last week about, things that we kind of want to be looking at as far as guides and what we want to, what the community is going to really be valuing, is going to be looking for, is going to be hungry for with Destiny 2. Somebody pointed out to me that we do have a very strong PvP slant, even though perhaps the majority of the population might be considered more PvE focused. I think that's fair to say, and some of that comes just from personal preferences. Some of that comes from PvP just being easier to study certain types of things. But I think there is perhaps going to be some room to discuss how weapons work in PvE versus PvP when Destiny 2 launches. I think that's going to be important to distinguish what the differences are. And I think that's something that I personally would really like to dig into when Destiny 2 launches, talking about how those things work. I think the person I was talking to was asking more about creating detailed quest guides, mission guides, raid guides, that kind of thing. And I don't know if that's entirely within our wheelhouse, but it's not something I would say no to.
I'm going to leave it up to you. If we decide to move into that genre, so to speak, I'm going to leave it up to you. When we came up with the idea of massive breakdowns, we saw a niche that was unfilled.
Yeah.
And we kind of filled it on our own. The whole PvE, DPS, quest guides thing is completely and totally saturated. Datto alone has a monopoly over most of the numbers stuff. And then there's, Planet Destiny, Destiny Tracker. There's a ton of fantastic websites out there that do guides.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who really do the PvE stuff really well already. And that's something, I'm not necessarily interested. Not that we couldn't also do some of that. But it is, like you said, it's about kind of meeting the needs that are out there. That are unfilled and that we're already perhaps just experienced and qualified to kind of target first. So
yeah, and I'm not a huge PvE player. I play PvE because I enjoy doing the content once or twice and I enjoy some of the rewards, but PvP is what I don't have 2,000 hours in PvE. I have 2,000 hours in PvP. So, I'm way more qualified to talk about PvP. And plus, the fact of the matter is doing this stuff takes a lot of work. And I have to be motivated to want to do that. And the way I'm motivated is because I want to. Like, it's what I enjoy. I'm curious about this stuff as well. For PvE, I've never felt like the top tier was high enough like where individual singular numbers matter that much in PvE. I can go into the highest level content in PvE with any loadout that I want and basically do fine. Like, that's the way I've always kind of looked at it. Is it going to be optimal? No, but at the same time, I mean, it's not insanely challenging for the most part. The first couple of times you run it, it's pretty difficult. Once you get the mechanics down, you can basically go in there with whatever primary you want or whatever secondary you want. And, you know, you might not do the most DPS, but you'll probably be fine as long as you know what you're doing. In PvP at high level, it is not like that at all. You go in there with the wrong loadout, you are drastically handicapping yourself to the point where it may become impossible for you to win. That's what's always appealed to me. And I know that he was talking about quests and stuff like that, but at the same time, what I'd either be doing is doing a lot of work to do something that someone else has already done, or I would just be copying someone else's work, in which case, why am I doing that anyways? You know? That's what like half the websites out there that aren't Destiny centric do. They just find someone who's made a guide and then they copy the guide and give them credit.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they have an audience and they need to do that, but at the same time, like, I don't want to waste my time doing that. Like, I'd much rather just link the person's guide and then go off and do something that I want to do. And I want to test that nobody else is out there testing. So that's my opinion of it.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair to say. And that might be something, depending on, the time I have available. And I am going to be taking some extra time when D2 launches to really focus on kind of collecting some of the information that I'm interested in. And I do have a great deal of interest in PvE. I can't say that I ever have put up the most numbers in terms of raw hours, but I do feel like for the hours I put in, I am pretty effective. I'm a quick study in PvE, so I definitely am not opposed to the idea. Whether or not it's something that for the time to put in that is going to be a priority for me, I can't say that for sure at this point, but it'll probably partly depend on the quality of the guides that are put out by the community at large. If people are putting out bad information, inaccurate information, then that may be something that I feel like I need to make a list for my own sake of how things actually work, so that when I come back through with my second and third characters, I'm not just kind of going in the dark again. And so we'll see. I think we'll see how it goes. We'll see what other people do. In general, there are a lot of great content creators in the community. I think that the PvE guide niche is probably going to be saturated as it was in Destiny 1. But, yeah, we'll find out.
That was the thing. Like we said, there was an opening in PvP. Maybe because there's not a super competitive market in Destiny or whatever it was. I felt like there was an opening in PvP. There were a lot of questions out there. I didn't see many answers.
Yeah.
In PvE, I didn't feel like there were any questions that were, that needed to be answered. So I started answering things that nobody else was answering. And I mean, a lot of the weapons guides that I wrote and a lot of the stats that I brought up and a lot of the testing I did on aim assist and range and things like that were because I saw opacity in how those things were. And people weren't understanding them. And I thought, I can't find, through my internet research, a good conclusion that proves something.
Yeah.
So now I have to go out and prove it on my own because I need to understand how this works if I want to have a better understanding of the game. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I do the massive breakdowns. That's why I do this podcast, is to talk to people about things they may not be able to find anywhere else.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're just another Destiny podcast, then why bother at that point in time?
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to stray from our roots. I do want to, and the things that we talk about here are not only important to the game, but they are things that a lot of times are either not addressed or very poorly addressed elsewhere. I mean, that's part of when the Taken King launched, like when I got into writing guides for Destiny, we had all these Arms Day weapons, and people were just kind of throwing out their person like, oh, I like this, I like that, that's a god roll, that's a god roll, this is a god roll, and I was just like, people are just saying everything's a god roll now. Like there's no kind of consensus view. There's no one actually stepping back objectively and saying, okay, why is this roll good? What are these perks actually doing? And that's where I got into it, and started doing my own research and started looking to people who had written guides before and how did they come to their conclusions. And is their information good, or do I need to go and actually try these things out myself? And that was just a ton of fun getting into that, and that's kind of what led me here as well, to the same point, via a somewhat different path. So,
yep. I mean, it's like the robot from the Disney movie said, "See a need, fill a need." Right?
There you go.
We saw a need, and we decided to fill that need. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie from a while back when I was like a teenager.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah, it's called Robots. It was like a Disney animated movie.
Everybody smile and nod.
Okay, fine. Screw all y'all. I know at least a couple of you guys know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend like you don't. All right, well, I think that's probably it for this episode, though. I think we've covered it enough. We've ranted a little bit. We've raved a little bit.
We've gone off topic on our typical tangents.
Gotten ourselves hyped up, yeah. I'm sure it's insulted someone's mother at some point in time during this.
At least once.
Yeah. All right. Well, as usual, guys, if you're out of stuff to listen to, or if you're just looking for a couple other interesting Destiny podcasts, Destiny Track Podcast Network is up and running. They've got a ton of stuff for you to listen to. We'd like to thank our patrons, as always. We also like to say, patrons, we're bringing some changes to the rewards. Don't worry, you will not be getting anything taken away. In fact, you will actually be getting free stuff. We are adding more tiers to the rewards, and we are adding bonuses to the reward tiers that are already there. So if you are already a patron, prepare to get a couple of rewards in the upcoming month. If you are not a patron, now is probably the best time we've ever had to start thinking about it. We're doing a bunch of drawings, a couple patrons only drawings that are free things. You donate $2, you're a patron for us, and you may get, some good free stuff handed down to you at this upcoming Guardian Con when we start doing all the drawings. So I highly recommend you guys support us there if you like what it is that we're doing here.
Yep.
If you weren't put off by us telling you all the reasons why we got into this and why we're not going to do other things, if you weren't put off by it, and I hope you weren't. But I think that's all from me. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Kit?
No, man. I just, I guess I was going to throw a quick shout out just to all of our fellow podcast networkers. I don't know what the term is. I'm just saying words now because it's midnight. So the eponymous, of course, Destiny Tracker podcast, Destiny Lorecast, Rabbit Hole Radio, Destiny Down Under, and RNG Cast. All awesome people. I listen to all these podcasts, and you should too. You should do. And that is all I've got.
All right. Well, that's it, guys, right? So have a great night. Have a great day, morning, whenever it is that you listen to us. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Peace.
Mayhem Clash. Alpha Team. No holding back. Your enemies won't. Oh yes. The battle lines have been drawn. The lead. Heavy ammo on the way. You're falling behind. Heavy ammo available. Five minutes remaining. Heavy ammo inbound. Heavy ammo available. You're in the lead. Lost the lead. Gained the lead. You're falling behind. Heavy ammo on the way. Heavy ammo available. ammo inbound. 1 minute. Strength in numbers, Guardian. Excellent. Heavy ammo available. Seconds left. This is going to be close. Lost the lead. Only 10 seconds left. I know that's not the best you've got. Do it again.